Fighters. We're halfway there. But the Lakers are almost halfway to Magic's two max level free agents. But we are not going to be talking about very much to do with NBA free agency. Maybe we'll sneak it in at the end if we have some time. But we have a special guest today joining us to talk a little bit about the draft and specifically a couple of Kansas players that he covers. Scott Chasen writes for 247 Sports, covers Kansas. Was with MLB.com, a couple local stops there in Kansas. I believe the phrase is one of the most promising up-and-coming journalists in North America. Scott, how are you?
Yeah, so I want to explain the reason for this comment that has gone around, because anyone who just listens to Lakers stuff must think I'm the most insufferable human being in the world. I'm close to that, but not quite. So Harrison Fagan of former Everything fame and I were chatting one time, and I had a friend who would lovingly just remark about he enjoyed some of the stuff I was doing. And he'd always be like, for your age, you are X. And I always told Harrison, I was like, this makes me very uncomfortable. Like, this is not a compliment I like. It's a very, like, it's almost upsetting to me. And he's like, oh, yeah, I understand. I'm going to take your trauma and tweet it at you every day. And then it became my, like, billing title. And, like, honestly, I bet some people are like, whoa, like, that's really high praise. I'm going to follow this guy. So I've stopped trying to correct it. But that is where that originates from. That is not on the Scott Chasen billing card that I've given Jacob or Han.
I actually read that straight from his bio on Twitter. Don't let him lie.
He emailed us his business card and it's
Hani still has my fabricated Twitter information on his Twitter bio, by the way. That's a thing that happened. And it's funny because Harrison and I became Twitter friends, I roll, but like Twitter friends first because my Twitter bio was what was I? I was the American Bruno Caboclo. I want to say I was. And I eventually changed it because I was like, people aren't going to get it. It's kind of an outdated reference. Fran Fraschilla calling him the Brazilian Kevin Durant. But then Hani has made his, like, what is yours? It's something with my old Twitter.
I think I'm the Iranian Scott Chasen.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, and I was also trying to find Scott is the originator of one of my favorite tweets of all time. He did not know that Hani was a real person and was stunned to find out that the Purple DJ meme was actually a real person.
For a Suns fan, Scott has had a lot of classic Lakers Twitter tweets. The Julius Randle one.
Yes.
That is my favorite tweet of all time.
I was thinking about that. Someone asked in the questions, was like, what about a 6-year, $60 million contract? I was just like, I'm glad Julius Randle is such a hot talking. Julius Randle, like, this is the analogy. Julius Randle is to Lakers Twitter that, like, if anyone actually cared about the Suns, what, like, Alex Len would have been if he were, like, marginally better.
Yeah.
I just love the debate.
I found the aforementioned tweet in which Scott said, wait, that guy from the meme with purple lights in the laptop is actually a real person. Scott, welcome to a podcast with the Purple DJ guy. We'll start off a little bit. I mean, Scott, I think you may mention it. You're a Suns fan. You guys had the #1 pick, and then you traded for another pick. What do you think of your guys' draft?
Honestly, I mean, I liked it. And like, the thing is about Suns fans, like, a lot of people are biased toward their team. I'm probably more biased to hate my team's drafts, given that, like, when they took Alex Len, like, I was wrong because I distinctly remember tweeting, like, the Suns are going to get Nerlens Noel or Ben McLemore, both of whom I was really excited about. But obviously, you know, that didn't turn out being. But when they took Alex Len, I was like, wow, that seems like a really horrible draft pick. So I'm not absolute, like, the same thing with Chris and Bender, by the way. I was excited the Suns got who they wanted, but I was like, I am not sold on either of these as people as players. So I'm generally not that way. And originally I was kind of all in on Doncic, and I still love Doncic. I would have loved to see the fit if he could play alongside guys like Jackson and Booker. But I think in terms of if DeAndre Ayton really is the center that people believe he can be, and that's, the modern NBA dominant center, not Shaq 2.0, not the Shaq and Kobe nonsense that they've been talking about, but like the modern version of an elite center. We have not seen that yet. People want to point to Clint Capella. Clint Capella still got played off the floor in games, and he doesn't make free throws. Those are two huge distinctions about why he's not a max player. Theoretically, DeAndre Ayton could be that guy, and to do something so different than everyone else in the Pacific Division is doing, that's a concept that excites me. But we'll see. I don't know enough about Mikal Bridges as an NBA prospect to say, wow, I'm so glad they traded the 2021 Miami pick. But I do enjoy seeing everyone's opinions on that and how that asset, which wasn't valuable enough to land them anyone, the second they traded it, it was like, what are you doing? The 2021 pick? We all know Miami's going to suck in 2021. Obviously, it's unprotected. So I don't know. But I thought it was a good draft. I thought it was one of the better drafts.
Yeah, I actually did like it. I probably would have taken Doncic #1, but I still like Ayton. I really like Bridges. Likewise, I didn't really have a problem trading the 2021 pick because like a million things can happen between now and 2021. It's kind of silly in that regard. For your, I guess, professionally, for your career, Kansas rarely, or for a rare year, did not have a top draft pick. I guess, what was it like not having to cover that aspect of the draft?
I think it was a lot worse because, like, having covered the last few drafts, there are sometimes when there's like one KU guy who might be a fringe pick, or there, one or two guys, or you got Josh Jackson who's going in the top 5, and then whatever. This draft, it was like there are supposed to be 5 KU players in the draft. One pulled his name out and like shocked everyone, but 5 fringe second round, maybe late first round guys. So it was just entirely different to see where each of them were going to go. I had a good idea that the Lakers were interested in Svi, talking to some Lakers media members, but like guys like Devontae Graham had no clue. Malik Newman, everyone thought was going to be drafted. Bill Self said as much. He was pretty adamant and shocked that Malik Newman wasn't drafted, although I kind of understood that one a little bit. And I think he might have too. He might have just been, talking up one of his guys. But it was really interesting to see where they all went. Admittedly, I kind of wanted a guy like Billy Preston to end up on the Lakers. Actually, I thought that would have been cool. But as it were, the Lakers got, of the 4 Jayhawks, I would have taken Svi #1. I think Devontae Graham has the highest floor because I think he's going to be a fine NBA backup point guard. But I would have taken Svi first. And I think it's great that the Lakers took a chance and got him of all the 4, because I think Malik Newman's okay. Same, Preston's boomer bust, but I would have taken Svi #1.
Billy Preston's a bit of an interesting case. Just kind of briefly, I guess, what was kind of the story behind him? He, I believe, left Kansas and never even played a game there, I don't believe.
Yeah, he played a couple scrimmages and like an exhibition game, and before the first game, and you can believe what you want out of this. I certainly have my own opinions, but the first game he doesn't play because Self says afterward that he missed curfew and had to park his car illegally because there were no parking spots left. So then when he woke up in the morning, he had to go retrieve his car, so he didn't get a ticket when the parking thing started. And he missed a class because of that. And because of all that, they suspend him for the opener. So like that's okay, fine. You're going to suspend him before the second game. Now we're talking 90 minutes before we get word that like, hey, something might be happening with Billy Preston. We find out he's out for the game. He's not going to be playing in that game. They're looking into the financial picture of a car he was driving. Doesn't play the rest of the year. KU conducted its own investigation, turned it over to the NCAA the day before the NCAA was off for its Christmas kind of vacation thing. So everyone knew they were going to have to wait a few weeks, which is amazing to me that that's how that works. But they come back in January after like 3 weeks or whatever the NCAA gets off, which, again, I don't know how many jobs just give you 3 weeks off for the holidays, but God bless the NCAA. And they're like, they won't give KU an answer. KU's like, can we just get an update on when you might be making an answer? Because Billy Preston has an offer from a European team, BG Igokia, I don't know how you say it, from Bosnia. And they said, hey, this is your date. We need a decision by then, or we're going to go get someone else. So eventually, the NCAA couldn't tell them where they were at in the investigation. So Billy Preston says, fine, I'm going to go overseas. It was kind of a weird situation. Talent has never been a question with him, but I mean, he really could have helped himself by playing at the combine. I thought it was an interesting decision not to do it. I maybe understand that, because if he had a really bad showing in 5-on-5s, kind of like Michael Porter did when he returned to Missouri, I can understand every team being like, I'm not even touching this guy. Like, I'm not looking into his background. We're not dealing with this. So maybe I get it from that perspective, but I think he has NBA talent. I think the biggest questions are the things that reportedly he's been willing to talk about with teams, but that he won't talk about publicly. And that's kind of what happened, his situation over the last year.
It's really, there was a weirdly high amount of guys, I feel like, this year that were kind of similar in that they basically just didn't play at all. With Mitchell Robinson, Anthony Simons, I think Brian Bowen, the South Carolina player, I can't remember. I know he was in the center of all of the kind of investigation. So it was kind of weird. But we'll shift gears to talk about what I'm sure most people are listening for. You mentioned the two players the Lakers drafted. Well, the one they drafted, the one they signed to a two-way deal. We'll start with Svi, who it only took me about 36 hours to be able to spell his name. I can say it. I wrote it enough to where I can spell it now. And now, like, when I was writing the information for this podcast, I wanted to write his name repeatedly because I know I can spell it now.
Hey, hot take. His first name is harder to spell than his last name.
No, I've only wrote Svi. I'm not even trying to write the whole thing.
that first A in his full first name gets me every time. But I got the last name down pat.
The last name's easy. But Svi, I think we've talked a lot about in the past week about his shooting. I think everybody kind of knows everything about in regards to that. But I guess my first question to you, Scott, I mean, is there more to him, particularly offensively, than just his shooting?
Well, I think it tells you European guys come over and they're almost immediately at any level pigeonholed into something. Svi's play with the Ukrainian national team was like the LeBron James role, the forward who handles the ball, who distributes, whose shooting percentage is like suspiciously bad. Like, he's a volume, do everything scorer. He gets into the college game and, KU looks at its roster and it's like, we got Frank Mason, Devontae Graham. We've got all the, like, we don't need you. We need you to actually be a shooter. So in kind of this funny roundabout way, he spent his first 2 years as a stationary catch and shoot guy, which he was capable of doing. And he ended up being very, very good at it. I mean, this is the guy who set the single season 3-point record, made threes for Kansas. So you asked about his offensive game, though. Long story short, yeah, it really came around his senior year. He got back to doing some of what he was doing at the international level. He played alongside great point guards, so he never had to be on ball too much. But he's shown more than enough flashes as a guy who can score off the dribble. He hit that huge shot against Duke. Sorry to remind you. That tied the game. That was wonderful. I always forget who's the Duke fan and who's the North Carolina fan. And I was like, this will go over really well. And then I was like, oh, nope, back up, stop.
Listen, I've had to talk about Malik Newman multiple times. And I was still not over it when they announced that he had signed him. So it's a wound that I've opened up many times in the last week.
But I'll say this. I think Svi is much better as a facilitator than he gets credit for. And I think an offensive rebounder, too. He's kind of sneaky good at that. Again, that really hasn't been his role, playing alongside either big men or guys like Josh Jackson, who, as a four-man, small ball four can really do that. And LeGerald Vick even, who kind of his one thing was like, this guy should be KU's best offensive rebounder. But he's shown flashes of that. And he's so much of a better athlete than people give him credit for. And I don't know if it's just the thing, like the white guy from Europe isn't a great athlete, but this is a dude who throws down windmill dunks and 360 alley-oops before games. And people are like, athleticism is kind of a question. It's like, well, he jumps really high. He defends point guards and big men, and he's really strong. So, yeah, what the other athletic stuff, I don't quite know what that is, but
So what you're saying is he's sneaky athletic.
Yeah, he's deceptively. It's a big secret. He's Alex Smith. He's the Alex Smith of NBA players. But no, I think obviously there are questions. I don't think he does anything at an elite level other than shooting. I think he might be the second best shooter in the draft behind Trae Young. But I think offensively his game is well-rounded enough that he can really fit into whatever role you want him to be.
You brought up a couple things that we'll touch there. and I don't really know a lot about what you know, but I mean, do you know a lot about his background? I mean, he just completed 4 years at Kansas, and he's only 20. He played overseas a bunch. I mean, uh, do you know a lot about his background kind of coming to America?
Well, it's funny. I spoke with the NBA scout and NBA scout when I worked for the University Daily Kansas student paper, because one of my friends who is an actual reporter gave this guy my number. He was like a team reporter. Was like, yeah, this guy covers Kansas. Like, it'll be good. And so this guy asked me the same question like 2 years or 3 years ago. And I was like, no, I don't know a thing about it, actually. And the fact of the matter is, I still can't give you a great answer. I partly because his parents speak mostly Ukrainian, and so it's hard to get them in an interview. But I can't tell you this. He was a guy who grew up as kind of like a basketball prodigy overseas, as so many people do. And he kind of touched on this at the Lakers press conference when he was introduced, but it just came to a point where it was like, we see what you're doing at the international level. I mean, he was playing against like Kyrie Irving and stuff at some of these events. So like these were like actual like World Cup level basketball, not like the whatever that so many kids get to go to. This was like legitimate, competition. And I think it came a point where it was like, hey, it's time for you to actually decide, like, are you trying to make it to the NBA? Then you need to take on this challenge. You need to play college basketball and find a fit for you. And his path to Kansas, I really couldn't tell you about what the recruiting path was like for him. But I can tell you when he got on campus at 16, he was my neighbor, by the way, in his first season. I lived in the apartments because I was still in college at the time. He was 16 years old, and I will never forget, I opened the door to the stairwell, and I see him walking up the stairs on all fours, like you do when you're a little kid, of a public apartment building. And I'm just thinking, like, what is this guy? Because I'm like 21 or something at the time. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Or 20 maybe. And then you remember he's 16. Like, This is a kid who's a 16-year-old. I came to college remarkably early. And since then, I think he's really developed. He developed a ton his junior year. And then his senior year is where it showed on the court. But I think if he would have gone pro after his junior year, whatever NBA team would have gotten him would have gotten a completely different player than he was at any point before that.
And you touched on just kind of the progress he made. And another thing that you mentioned and that they mentioned at the press conference, it's a question somebody asked. They asked what about his defensive duties, and I believe Magic was talking about him guarding the other team's best player in the tournament. I mean, defensively, a lot's been made about the fact that he only has a 6'4" wingspan. I mean, Is he a guy that's going to be able to make an impact defensively?
All right, so I am 5'6" with a 5'8" wingspan, okay? Mm-hmm. When I go to the rec, I have never guarded a player who is shorter than about 5'10". I've done pretty well, and I think we forget sometimes, like, this is a 6'8" dude with a 6'4" wingspan. It's like, how's he going to guard a guy who's 6'8" with a 6'6" or 6'8" wingspan? It's like that. Those 4 inches will just make it impossible to guard him. Now, I will say this. First of all, hilarious that Magic Johnson almost tampered, or whichever one answered that question, by saying Marvin Bagley. I don't even know if that would be tampering, but there were 2 questions that Magic got asked, and Rob Pelinka's face was like, oh my God, don't, like, dude, do not say it. Like, we do not want to get fined another however many million, but
especially right after they released this big memo about not tampering. And then there was one time Magic caught himself doing it too. He's really, really bad about that.
Yeah, it seems like the one thing you would worry about. But regardless, Svi didn't always guard the other team's best player, but he did in that game. And what's funny is going into the game, we were all writing about how the hell is KU going to stop Marvin Bagley? And so finally someone asked Bill Self, and Bill Self, the cockiest answer I've ever seen out of him, because he's a very affable, personable guy. He gets a lot of credit for his charm. He looks at the reporter. He goes, "Have you seen Svi? Like, are you kidding me? How are we going to stop Marvin Bagley? Like, who is he?" And so, when he said that, I read that, I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, he was going to lose by 30. And Svi had a ton of help. It was not a one-on-one matchup at all. Anytime Marvin Bagley caught the ball, I mean, digs, everyone's digging in the post. People are swarming to the ball, rotations. Big men are coming off their guys, leaving Wendell Carter at the rim. And KU, quite frankly, only won that game because Wendell Carter fouled out, and probably 2 or 3 of those calls were not great. But that's, how it can go in a one-game setting. So defensively, he's better than people give him credit for. He's stronger than people give him credit for. He will struggle with really quick guards. Occasionally, KU would put him on point guards as a change of pace. They put him on Javon Carter of West Virginia, and it worked pretty well. West Virginia, though, runs the most basic offense in the country. They basically bleed the clock, isolate, and take a mid-range jumper if they don't get it in transition, for anyone who wouldn't know. So it's not like asking him to defend the Warriors, but he got a lot better. I'd say closeouts, he improved as well. He knows how to use his limitations, not having great length. I still think he's mostly defending 2s and 3s at the next level. I see very few 4s. Like once Marvin Bagley is the developed player and like 23, there's no chance that Svi can guard him. But I do think he can absolutely guard 2 guards in the NBA, and I think there will be a good amount of 3s he can do. I don't think you want him guarding a 3 who's like a slasher, like super off-ball cutting whatever guy. But Svi played a ton of minutes. I don't know his exact numbers. I guess around 33 minutes. He should not have been playing that many minutes. I mean, he transformed his body, and he even told Bill Self at one point, he said, I could be a lot better for you if I were playing 30 minutes and not 36 minutes a night. KU didn't have any depth. That team was 7 people deep, and they didn't have any wings off the bench. So he had to play that many minutes. But I think once he gets into a role in the NBA, he'll be able to commit more to defense, and I think that'll make him a better player and a solid fit. So I would say that. He can guard mostly 2s, some 3s. Don't count on him guarding Bagley ever again. And do count on Magic Johnson probably tampering 6 or 7 more times.
I don't think they're going to put him in front of a microphone in the next 2 days, about 6 hours. So I think once free agency comes around, he can mention any free agent's name.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think he needs a microphone to tamper. Magic will find a way.
Yeah, one thing real quick, because I want to make sure like people know I'm not talking Svi, because I feel like sometimes I talk a guy up to be like the next LeBron James. Svi absolutely has problems. It's like how good of a ball handler is he? At times team would pressure him, and he can't handle under pressure yet, although he has shown the potential to do that. Defensively, like he'll be okay, but he's not holding Chris Paul down. Like he's not stopping any elite players. Team defense was solid, but like, so I want to be clear about that. But the one thing he will bring the Lakers that a lot of guards can't is the role he played in the Kansas offense was really anywhere from 2 through 4. And in Bill Self's offense, that means screening, pick and pop, coming off screens. In the same game, he may be setting a screen, a cross screen in the paint with another big man, and then also running around 6 screens, popping open for a 3-pointer, taking a dribble and then launching it off the bounce. So he will give you versatility 2 through 4 that makes him really a dream fit to plug in next to a superstar or a star. You wouldn't want him if you had a team of scrubs. Like if you had a rebuilding team, whatever, you wouldn't want him on the court because he's not going to be at his best unless he's alongside other great players. He's kind of the opposite of Kevin Love in that regard. No offense to Kevin Love, but that's just the example that comes to my mind. Like he's the guy who will stick out more when you put him next to great players. And if you just put him on a bad team, I'm not sure you'd ever hear from him again.
So you're saying it's perfect that the Lakers drafted him so that he can play next to, LeBron, Paul George, Kawhi, etc. Lonzo.
All 3, the big 3, the new big 3.
I think you touched on everything I had and everything everybody asked about Svi. So we'll transition to Malik Newman, who, as I said, it still hurts a bit to talk about. But I think his game against Duke is kind of a perfect example of maybe some of the frustrations with him. He dropped a career high against Duke, but there were many times where he struggled, and I think inconsistency is a big thing for him. I guess, is that a fair criticism and kind of evaluation of Malik?
Yeah, his first year of college, I'll be quick on this stuff, but his first year of college, he went to Mississippi State, played with Ben Howland. I think his dad went there or something. Just the worst possible decision. And it goes to show you sometimes a kid tries to make a decision for a right reason. Horrible decision, terrible fit. He comes to Kansas on the condition that he's not going to sit out a year, get better, and go to the NBA. Because practicing against KU, Bill Self said all that. He's like, this guy's a first-team All Big 12 talent. Like straight up, he's incredible in practices. But he's not leaving because we would not have taken him. That's going to screw up every class. If he wants to come to Kansas and get better, he's got to play a year. So Malik Newman sits out his year. Starts off the year against Kentucky, hits a huge 3 in that game, and shows off great defensive rebounding potential, which I don't think people knew about. And after that, his season was just kind of quiet. He was averaging about 9 or 10 points a game. He got a concussion, played a terrible game against Arizona State. Next game, I believe, was held scoreless. And so people lump that in and kind of forget he got a concussion there and that hurt some of his games. But he was not good. I wouldn't even call him inconsistent. I would just say he was bad at that point. There was a turning point to his season against Iowa State. And Iowa State played a traditional 2 big 3-guard lineup, and KU plays 4 guards. So they had to stick the power forward on someone, and they said, Malik Newman sucked all year. We're going to stick our power forward on him. And I think Malik Newman took that extremely personally, as in, like, are you kidding me? I'm a 5-star recruit. I was one of the top 5 players in my recruiting class, and you are putting this, like, schlub on me. And he went off for 27 points. He had 10 rebounds. He showed defensive potential we hadn't seen. He swatted away a shot from a guy, a 3-pointer, like late in the game. A guy tried to isolate on him, and he just swatted the dude. And like after that, he had 2 back-to-back 20-point games. And then when it came to the postseason, I mean, 30 points in the Big 12 tournament opener, one of the best games I've ever seen from him. And I mean, he had 20 points in 6 of KU's last 8 games. You mentioned Duke, 32 points, and defending Grayson Allen. Allen shot 3 of 13, had like 12 points, defended him perfectly on the final possession. Something clicked. And talking to him throughout the season, great personality. He's hilarious. You guys are going to love him. Just in terms of hearing sound bites and talking to him. He talked about this whole escapade where someone had donut sticks, and he tried to take some, and the guy locked him, his roommate locked him in his drawer, and he's like, I bought all the snacks over the summer. Devontae Graham's eating all my snacks. It's the funniest. Like, it's so dumb and it's so funny. He is a hilarious guy, but that personality kept up. And I think he figured eventually, like, it is going to click. And when it did, you saw the supernova game-changing performances. I would have been hesitant to draft him because I think he's undersized. I think he needs to be a point guard at the next level. And kind of like Svi guarding Bagley, I think he can guard bigger players who are less developed, like than a 26-year-old, NBA, like legit 3-man or something. So, like, I think his defense is going to be very limited. However, he can score from anywhere on the court. He's a great shooter. He's an improved ball handler, still not good enough, still not an NBA ball handler. And he's a great, like, get a defensive rebound and just start the break and run. I would call it what Russell Westbrook light if that wasn't like the biggest insult in the world to every part of Russell Westbrook's game. But he's you'll see he was probably KU's best defensive rebounder last year, like including 7 foot 280-pound Udoka Azubuike. Like, he had games with like where he would just like go up and change a game with his rebounding. Like, you look at his totals and it doesn't make any sense. He was the shooting guard the whole year. But I think that bodes well for him. Everyone expected him to be drafted. He was leaving. He decided he was going to play 1 year no matter what. That was always going to be the case. It wasn't his tournament that made him turn pro. He was expected to be drafted. I got wind a little bit before the draft that some teams had some concerns about his size. So I put like a little note, like, wouldn't shock me if he fell a little. But even I thought he'd be a late 2nd-round pick. So I think it's really interesting what the Lakers have in him. I think a 2-way contract is perfect for him. While I would describe Svi as a guy who would be great playing alongside other great players, I think Malik Newman is a guy you want not shouldering a load by himself, but think more Dion Waiters potentially than Kyle Korver. You would rather him – if he doesn't get his shots, I don't know how effective he can be in a game. He can still get rebounds for you, but he's not going to do too much else. So maybe that doesn't make it maybe there's your backup plan. If you guys don't get LeBron James, hey, you got Malik Newman for however many games you get on a 2-way deal.
We traded away Jordan Clarkson, so we need that Dion Waiters type guard on our team. So I'm very happy to hear this.
Yeah. But his story, though, like, I just want to share this real quick. He opened up about this during the tournament. When he's a little kid, he wants to play basketball. No one in his neighborhood lets him play, right? So he takes a bike tire and snaps it off his bike, like snaps the screws, whatever, and just bleeping nails that sucker up in a tree and is like dunking on it. And he said, he's like, if it rains, I couldn't play for a week because it's dirt. Like, he's playing on dirt and a tree. And eventually he snapped the rim off, and his dad, Horatio Webster's like, okay, dude, we're going to buy you a basketball. But, like, that just speaks to who he is, because when he had that breakout game against Iowa State, like, if I were him, if that were any of us, like, people doubting us, someone says, like, honey can't write worth a crap, like, whatever, and then you write the award-winning feature, win a Pulitzer, like, I'm going up there, like, Go ahead.
I would actually be like, no, you're right.
But no, I'm going up to that podium like, yeah, you see what happens? Like, do that again. Like, I'm saying so many words that I probably shouldn't say on this podcast or like publicly because I have a job. But like, I am just going off like Allen Iverson or Kanye West at whenever he interrupted Taylor Swift. Like, not even the practice rant. We're skipping that. I'm going off. And the fact he was like, I wouldn't call this a breakout game for me. I can do this on a consistent basis. That's what'll show this is a breakout game for me. And when he said that, I was like, this is a guy who's battled adversity, who sat out a year knowing, like, I've got 2 years to go. I could probably take a year off train or even go pro and still be a second-round pick or something. I mean, he went undrafted 2 years later, but he's a guy who's dealt with some adversity. So maybe similar to Frank Mason, if I were betting on him, I'd be more betting on Malik Newman, the person, than I am the player. But at the same time, like, I don't know how you can watch his NCAA tournament run and not say, like, he's going to be able to score at the next level, like routinely dropping 25 and 30, like in college games, he's going to be able to score. It's just a question of, can he do anything else at an NBA level, I think.
You kind of touched on the couple of questions I have, so I'll kind of combine them into one, I guess. Do you expect his role, I guess, in his rookie year to be kind of a combo guard type of player then?
Yeah, I think he wants to be a point guard, but I think he's not. And so I think you would want to, ideally, I hate the comparison I'm about to make, but it's like when Matthew Dellavedova was on the court with LeBron, and it's like, you don't want Matthew Dellavedova as your only ball handler, but like when you have LeBron, like, okay, it's fine that Matthew Dellavedova is playing point guard. The Suns could probably have an example of this of like anyone. It's like, if he has to play point, you would ideally like a couple other guys who can handle on the floor. Same goes for Svi in that regard. So yes, I would see more of a combo than a point. Ideally, you'd want him playing more 2 than 1, and you'd want him playing with a big point guard. I don't know what Lonzo's size is, but it's possible Lonzo may be bigger than Malik Newman. So it might be a case where if you're playing a bad team that doesn't have a great point guard, that Malik Newman would take the worst defensive matchup, and you would put a bigger guy on whoever the bigger one is. But again, that's assuming a lot about both their games. And maybe Malik Newman could have proven that. His wingspan isn't horrible. It's like Svi's. Actually, it's almost identical, I believe. But at the same time, whereas Svi can occasionally guard up, Malik Newman did not show that at all throughout his time at Kansas. If anything, it's like Grayson Allen was a rarity, I would say. And also I think maybe that speaks a little bit to Grayson Allen. You would know more than me, but like the fact that he was able to be taken out of a game by a guy like Malik Newman might speak more to like Grayson Allen is sometimes inconsistent and maybe just didn't have the best game versus Malik Newman is some defensive wizard.
I'm really enjoying how much of a rarity that performance was from him in that Duke game.
Was he inconsistent? Is that fair? I didn't watch him too closely.
Grayson, yeah, his senior year he was. He struggled not being the point guard. He really kind of needed the ball, and he really wasn't the point guard for much of the year. And when he was Trevon Duval, it was basically playing 4-on-5. So it was kind of a weird fit, and he was on again, off again. He struggled a lot in the tournament. He struggled in the game before that against Syracuse. So it was tough to watch. I still in my dreams, Grayson hits that little off-balance shot at the buzzer that almost went in and won him the game. But
Hold on. I would like you to stop right there, and I'm stalling for a specific reason, and I never do this. The last time I recorded a moment of a game that I was watching live was the Royals walk-off hit in the wild card game that sparked their World Series run. It's one of the most incredible moments, and I hated myself for doing it because I remember taking the video, and I don't remember the moment. So as you can probably imagine, what I am pulling up right now is actually that shot because it is the most remarkable thing, like in the history of the world, that this shot somehow did not find a way to fall through the net. I'm not even kidding. I'm going to make you watch this. I'm scrolling back through so many videos right now. Let's see. Okay, here it is, okay? Can we even see this, anyone?
Sort of.
Oh, my God. This
Could you guys see that at all?
Yes, I saw enough of it. When he put it up and it bounced like a couple times, I'm thinking, I'm letting everybody have it. Grayson Allen just hit a buzzer beater to put Duke in the Final Four.
Yeah, I want
to. No, it didn't happen. So.
You guys got to see one thing, though. I will slow it and I'll pause it so you can't actually see it. So as the ball is rolling off, God, this is a disaster waiting to happen. You can't see this at all. But I don't know. Marvin Bagley is right there for a rebound, and it's Svi boxing him out and Svi swatting the ball away. And that is the most underrated part of that play. Still 0.8 on the clock. Plenty of time for a tip-in. So at the very least, while Malik Newman killed Duke, the other current Laker who was formerly a Jayhawk also did his part beating Duke, who should have won that game. Duke was so much better than Kansas that year. And, like, I don't know, man. Like, somehow Kansas won that game, but they could play that 10 times, and I think Duke wins like 8 more of them.
It's pretty clear, though. It's just karmic justice against Grayson out.
Yeah, that fifth foul. How mad were you when Wendell Carter?
Oh, I was. Oh my God, I don't. Where was the game played at? I remember I tweeted something like, "I'm flying to wherever it was at." I think it was in Omaha, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those cities. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna fly to Omaha and have a talk with this ref because this is unbelievable.
It was so bad. Honestly, like, so many parts of that game were just. It was one of the most fun games I've ever watched, but also like. Horribly officiated. And I mean that both ways. Like, incredibly bad officiating. Devontae Graham wasn't that good. I mean, you had Malik Newman basically being great and Svi hitting one shot for Kansas. And for Duke, it was like Duke's big guys were awesome, but somehow, like, Wendell Carter only played 23 minutes. Like, looking back at that box score, it's incredible. Bill Self called it the second best win he's ever been a part of. I think that was in the heat of battle, but I came away very impressed with Duke guys. Do the Lakers have any Duke guys other than Brandon Ingram?
No, not from that team.
That's probably good. I can't think of many Duke guys who are actually good in the NBA. Same with the
Wow. Yeah. Okay, this will be your last visit to the podcast. We did have a couple questions. We answered a few of them already. In typical Lakers exceptionalism fashion, can Svi and Malik Newman play with Paul George or Kawhi Leonard? You talked a little bit about it, but do you think that both of them could?
Yeah, I mean, if they were part of the 3-team deal that sent Kawhi to Boston, I think they would be a great. No, So let's talk about this from a Lakers perspective. If the Lakers are going to acquire Kawhi Leonard, they're probably going to have to part with who? You guys would know better than me. Give me an idea.
Probably Ingram and Kuzma at this point. That's just kind of the rumored deal.
Ingram seems like the most likely guy.
So they're losing wings. So I think for Svi, that's perfect because he's not good enough to play over a guy like Kuzma and Ingram. Certainly not good enough for that. But I think if he's your 5th starter, you can do a lot worse than that because what is LeBron great with? It's role guys. Like, he needs this guy's got to be tough inside. This guy's got to be a shooter on the wing. And it's been Jeff Green, and you've seen how that's gone, like, at times been great. And then Svi will provide a lot more consistency in that spot if you have a guy like LeBron than anyone he's ever had. Same thing with Paul George and Kawhi. Both guys showed at least a little ability to be a facilitator, and I think that's perfect for Svi. Newman is so tricky. I think Newman would almost be better if it were like Newman and just Kawhi and none of the other guys. Maybe he gets into that role as a shooter, but that's why I said the 2-way contract I think is really perfect for him because he's like the guy when LeBron James takes his 2 weeks off to, like, go fix his back and, like, hang out in Miami. You bring Malik Newman up and you're like, hey, new LeBron right here. Go take it, man. But who's the guy? Was it Troy Daniels who, like, swung a series or a game at least by hitting, like, a bunch of threes?
Yeah.
Malik Newman will be that. You get into a playoff series even, like, who knows, a playoff game where just nothing is going in and you turn to the last guy on your bench and he's an elite scorer in college and a capable NBA scorer. Not many teams have that. I mean, you think maybe the Warriors have had that sometimes, but how many teams can look down at their bench in those games? Think about that last Celtics or the last – who was the team that missed like 93s in a row? Was it the Rockets?
Yeah, it was.
Both those teams missed a ton of threes in those games, and it's like you just look down at your bench and you're like, we have no one left. If the Lakers have Malik Newman with them for those games, they'll at least have a guy they can throw in and say, dude, just go put the ball in the hoop twice and then get out of the game, and we'll see if that sparks something. And I think that's valuable. It's such a niche skill. Like, that's so minor. That's like one scenario you would want a guy for. But when you have LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George potentially in your team, I feel like those are the exact scenarios you want from your 12th man. You want Kendrick Perkins to manage the locker room. You want a guy who can have one discernible skill and do it. You don't need Ian Clark to be your 12th man with LeBron James. You need someone who's going to be able to give you something great. And he may not be that great, yet, but he can at least give it at a serviceable NBA level. So I think that's how he best fits with those guys.
And I mean, you kind of mentioned this a bit. Another question we had, I don't think that they necessarily mean this year, but do you think either Svi or Malik or both could crack into a starting rotation at some point in their career?
The Lakers would have to suck like horribly, like worse than like anyone has thought for Malik. Svi, yeah, if they trade enough of their wings, sure. And again, that's just fit because he's not going to get embarrassed on either end of the floor if they put him in the right matchups. I know the Lakers do a lot of things with switching. Svi's very much used to that. I could see it. I doubt it would happen right away. But honestly, like, here's the thing. You guys took Mo Wagner in the first round. I didn't get that pick at all. Like, maybe he fits as a modern NBA big who can run the floor and shoot threes, whatever. I would say I would feel infinitely more comfortable about Svi's fit and the potential for him to start a game next to elite talent than like pretending to know how good of an NBA player Mo Wagner is going to be, even though I think Mo was a much better college player probably than Svi was. But I think Svi as a niche guy, you would feel pretty comfortable with that.
I believe that is all the questions we had. Well, we had one more. And I'll let Hani answer this as well. I'll throw it to you first, Hani. Somebody asked, what are your goals or expectations of these two in Summer League? So I guess, Hani, what are you kind of expecting to see from these guys in Summer League?
I think they're going to have a lot of chances, especially with, Lonzo's not playing, Kuzma's not playing, and Magic the other day said Josh Hart is only going to play one game in Sacramento and one game in Vegas. So if the Lakers Summer League team is as good as we think it is, and they play a lot of games in Vegas, they're going to have a lot of opportunities to kind of show the team what they got. And I think that's really valuable for them just to get their confidence going into training camp and just provide, all the skills that Scott was talking about in terms of their shooting and scoring. And they'll be able to have a lot more volume of those shots than they would with the actual Lakers anyway. So it's kind of a good way for them to build their confidence and show what they can do.
Is Lonzo not playing because De'Aaron Fox might?
Oh, he is on Sacramento's Summer League team. I don't. Oh, I guess we have to play him. Yeah, no, we're going to Sacramento, so we just absolutely left Lonzo all the way back in Los Angeles.
Yo, do you guys know who the guy Josh Selby is? Have you ever heard that name?
Oh, I remember Josh Selby. Yeah.
Okay, so KU guy, top 5 recruit, misses a bunch of time because of an NCAA violation that was amazing. I love the NCAA, if you can't tell. And then gets injured. Years never the same. Ends up being a second-round pick. Had to go pro. He would not have worked for him to return to college. His debut game, he drills like 8 threes, by the way, in KU. He was Summer League co-MVP. I don't know if it was his first year or second year, but like you saw this dude in Summer League and you were like, oh my God, like how did this guy go in the second round? People put way too much stock into his year at Kansas. This guy is an NBA all-star. Like he was insane in that Summer League. Never had an NBA career, like barely making it in Israel. Like not at all like a good player. Malik Newman, there's a chance. Like I'm just saying there's a chance. He could average like 40 at Summer League if they give him the shots and minutes. The role he was on, like open game, 24-second shot clock down and back, Malik Newman could average like 40 points. And everyone's like, oh my God, this guy went undrafted, top 5 recruit. Yeah. I wouldn't like whatever. I think Svi's interesting though, because I would say when he came to KU, he needed someone he could like kind of be buddy-buddy with. And he came in with Devontae Graham, who was this very affable dude. I wrote a feature about their kind of personalities meshing, but Graham wasn't ready to be a leader, but he had those capabilities. And so Svi latched onto him and it helped develop Graham and it helped Svi develop and feel comfortable. Svi has played around a lot of guys he knows very well for a long time and guys he is very close with and who are his best friends and who he hangs out with off the court. He's going into a brand new situation. Obviously, he knows Mo Wagner a little bit. But I am very interested to see what he does playing with new teammates, because the only sample we have for that is international basketball, like the national team stuff, when he's like the LeBron James of the team, and he's obviously not going to be that in Los Angeles. So I am fascinated to see if coaching staff, first of all, develops the time to understanding what his skill set is, putting him in the right situations to succeed, or if it's just, hey, come on, this is our 10th man. We're not going to tailor make anything to him. Either he's going to fit in or fit out. I am very intrigued to see what he looks like when he gets into a situation with new teammates, because theoretically with Lonzo Ball or LeBron or whoever is his playmaker, he should be the guy who everyone's just like, Jesus Christ, like this guy hits 6 threes. Are you kidding me? Like we don't even that should be him. He can score from anywhere. NBA threes. KU does a drill in practice where you're supposed to make 250 NBA threes and they give you 325 attempts. And so you're hitting 50 from each location. The goal is to do it, I believe, 50 out of like 65 attempts or something like that. And Svi was the guy who could do it in like 300. So he'd make 50 out of 55 at each location, which is insanely impressive. And these are NBA threes. So he's got range. He's got that scoring. To me, it's can he put himself in the right situations, and are the Lakers going to put him in the right situations? Because if they're not, I don't know how well he's going to be able to carve out a role for himself. If I'm a Lakers fan, I want to see that in Summer League. I want to see how is he getting the ball, how does he make himself useful, and how does he guarantee he's not being taken out of games? Because Ben McLemore I would compare Ben McLemore to Svi Mykhailiuk. They obviously came out with dramatically different stocks, but Ben McLemore was a great shooter, and I believe if he had gone to the right team would have been a great talent, but he let himself get taken out of games consistently. If you weren't looking for him, Malik Monk did this to a Kentucky. He was not going to force the action. He would go 10 minutes without a shot. And this was a guy who was supposed to be a top 10 pick. 10 minutes without a shot, this elite scorer-shooter hybrid. And so I think Svi can fall into those traps a little bit. That's what I'm looking for Summer League. The longest Summer League player breakdown for a second-round pick ever.
And for those keeping track at home, you have now compared Svi to LeBron and Ben McLemore.
He's in between. He's in between the two.
I can safely say that he will fall somewhere in between LeBron and Ben McLemore. I also had to go look up Josh Selby because I thought he did. He played for the Lakers the next summer. His first summer league, as you said, 24 points, co-MVP. The next year he played for the Lakers, and he played 5 games both year. The second time around he averaged 2 points.
Yeah. That sounds right. I'm telling you though, like Ben McLemore in the right, like if Ben McLemore goes to the Spurs, he's averaging 20. Like he's giving you 20 a night. He was a bucket, man. So pure. And instead he went to the Kings, where Thomas Robinson, another Jayhawk, goes to the Kings, goes to die. Everyone goes to Sacramento if you're a Jayhawk to die. I hope I never get off a plane.
I think everybody, just like any prospect in general, goes to Sacramento to die. Like I loved Willie Cauley-Stein coming out of college and
went to my high school.
Yeah, and now he's I'm pretty sure he's went to Sacramento and died.
Yeah. Even older guys. George Hill went there, died, came to Cleveland, and it was all right.
Isaiah Thomas went there and thrived. That should have been the biggest red flag for everyone. It's like, whoa, this guy's good in Sacramento. What?
We will close. We will do a very brief, I won't even call it a segment, a free agency segment, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to give you some names of some of the top guys, and I want to hear where you think that they are going to land. We'll start off with a guy who actually isn't a free agent, Kawhi Leonard.
Honey?
Oh, you thought
you go first.
You both can do it.
Well, okay, so I'm growing out my hair so that I could have somebody turn it into cornrows for me because he's going to be a Laker. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to say the Sixers swing a trade for him.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, man.
Yeah.
And by the way, Sixers, the one thing that they did that was really dumb on draft day is trading Mikal Bridges. I was going to call him Brown because Markel Brown for another guy, but if you're Philadelphia, the best time to make a trade with a team like the Spurs is when you have the number 10 pick in the draft. And I get it. That 2021 Miami pick might be the first year that high schoolers are allowed in the draft, and it might be the best draft ever. If you're banking on that, God bless you. It might be the 3rd pick in the draft. The Heat just suck and can't get any free agents. But I guarantee the Spurs would have rather had the number 10 pick in this last draft, which was insanely stacked, than the number 2021 unprotected Miami Heat first rounder that God knows where that thing's going to fall. It could be legitimately, would not shock me, anywhere 1 to 28. Would not I guess 1 would shock me, but so I will say Philadelphia, even though I think they should have been aggressive with it previously.
Yeah, I agree.
It'll be a clean sweep because I thought I was going to be the outlier and say Philadelphia, but I still think that they can offer the best package of players. LeBron James, honey.
I'm gonna hate myself for that. No, I didn't, but I was very close. And it wouldn't be the first time. But I'm going to hate myself for it, but I'm going to say he'll be a Laker.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You think?
I think so.
Really?
And, there's so many signs pointing to it. And that's what I hate about it, because it's giving me this hope. And he'll end up staying in Cleveland or something. Or my other theory is that he and Chris Paul are in on it, and they've made Houston sound like it's not an option, and he's going to go to Houston anyway.
I tweeted leading up to the draft that Svi Mykhailiuk should want to go to Houston, because if they blow it up and get LeBron, it'd be perfect. And it's funny that it might be the United States. I'll tell you where LeBron's going. I just did a quick Google. Oh, boy. The number of wineries in California is 4,391, according to reputable news source, whatever website came up on Google. I like California. Have we ruled out Golden State on the mid-level exception? Do they have that?
I'm not sure if they – I think they're going to use it on Jamal Crawford. I don't know if they'll have it for LeBron.
You guys should want Durant. Get Durant and LeBron. Don't get Kawhi. Also, I think you should not trade for Kawhi Leonard if you're Boston, if you're Philadelphia, because you've got a good thing going and you don't know about his health. But if you're the Lakers, I would give up anything for Kawhi. And I say this as not a Lakers fan, so understanding I probably value the Lakers' assets less than anyone who's a Lakers fan. But if I were the Lakers and the Spurs came to me and said, Lonzo plus Brandon Ingram plus Kuzma plus Josh Hart plus a first rounder, I would say, thank you, give me Kawhi. Now I'm getting LeBron, and I might get Paul George too. Fine. That's how I view it. If you have a chance to get those guys, you do it. I can only put that in perspective as myself as a Suns fan. If the Lakers came to the Suns and said Devin Booker and the Suns have no good players. That
was going to be my joke.
Devin Booker, Josh Jackson, DeAndre Ayton, and we'll give you Kawhi Leonard. My first thought would be wow, that really sucks, whatever. But then I'd be if there were a LeBron James rumored to have interest in me, I'd be if we feel like we're getting LeBron, give me Kawhi, give me LeBron, and let's get rid of all these young kids that I've cared about because it's the chance to get those guys. So obviously that comes down to how good they feel about LeBron. Obviously you don't just trade all that for Kawhi, especially with the injury things. But if LeBron gave them that commitment, was you guys get Kawhi, I might be coming there. Then if I'm the Lakers, I trade Magic Johnson. I acquire anyone they want and then just trade them instantly. I get Mikal Bridges and Mikal Bridges' mom. I bring them, I reunite them again, and then trade him out. Just get rid of him and ruin their lives again. So
I draw the line at the Taylor Swift banner in Staples.
Oh man, yeah. I trade the Clippers. I see if you can trade the Clippers to wherever. But yeah, right. It depends on LeBron.
Yeah.
I will say LeBron. I don't like it. I'm going to say Lakers too. I don't like having optimism. It sucks. Paul George. Hani, where's Paul George ending up?
All right. So if we're basing it on this exercise, and I said that Kawhi's not coming to the Lakers, and I said that LeBron is coming to the Lakers, I don't think LeBron gives that commitment without a second star. So I'm going to say Paul George is also a Laker.
Playoff P.
Playoff P.
Playoff P.
Yeah. Man. My opinion has changed so much of Paul George, man. I used to be so high on him, and I'm currently probably too low, and it needs to rebound. I feel like if you told LeBron, hey, Paul George just told us we're coming to the Lakers, he'd be like, okay, so who's the superstar that you guys are going to get to put with me? Like, currently. Like, that Oklahoma City team was – Andre Roberson his injury should not have, changed the trajectory of them with that much, and maybe you blame Melo. But I'm going to say if LeBron goes, I could see him being like the third fiddle somewhere. Someone on the radio I was on with today called him the ultimate beta. And while I think that term's like so stupid, like I kind of think that like if there's a chance for him to be like, I can play with good players, I think he goes there. But I think the most likely outcome is Oklahoma City because I think he's buds with Russell Westbrook. And like, I don't know, like I'm from Tulsa and we make fun of Oklahoma City as being like a crappy city. And, like, somehow he found happiness there. So, like, God, fine. All right. Have fun, man.
Yeah. There's a lot of good fishing spots in Oklahoma City. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to just say it.
Former steakhouse before it got run out of business because he left. So.
Wonder why
Paul George does stay. I'll learn to forgive him if he goes and buys the steakhouse and puts his own name.
Also, tangent, real quick. Because Kevin Durant might go to you guys, which I want like more than anything. I don't think he really will, and I think Stephen A. may have made that up entirely, but you never know.
Well, there's 100% chance he did not, but go on.
However, my favorite NBA storyline ever was when that newspaper ran the headline "Mr. Unreliable" with Durant.
Oh my God, yeah.
Why I love this is the writer's like, "Oh, I didn't write that headline." It's like, no. But you did write a story basically being like, this guy is extremely unreliable. So it was like, you kind of get to say that because you did not call him that. But also the whole point of your story was that he's unreliable. So you did kind of call him Mr. Unreliable, just not directly. You were kind of too afraid to do that. But I've always found that funny.
He did not write 2 words calling him Mr. Unreliable. He just wrote 1,000 words calling him unreliable.
Yes. Important distinction.
Last one, the most important one I will list. I'll throw it to you first, Scott. Elfrid Payton.
Oh boy, anywhere but Phoenix. The number of so Tom Fier, maybe friend of your thing, had a thing a long time ago where he had a thing that was like, could we fleece the Suns for Alex Len and PJ Tucker or something in some trade? And I just remember I saw that thinking when I was like. It was in addition to Devin Booker, but I saw that and I was like, one, you're not getting Devin Booker for Julius Randle. That was the trade he was talking. But I was like, you think fleecing the Suns is getting Alex Len? Elfrid Payton's the same thing, man. If Elfrid Payton, Marquise Chris, Tyler Ulis, and Mike James were all on my team as they were under contract for the Suns last year, and a team came to me and was like, I have a trade for those guys. I'd be like, yes. And they'd be like, but I haven't told you what I'm giving. And I'd be like, I don't care. Give me nothing. I'll give you picks to take these guys. So nothing against Elfrid Payton, better three-point shooter last year, really improved that part of his game. He falls into the category of if that guy is on my team, I'm really upset that we don't have a better player. All of those guys do. No offense, Marquise Chris. Don't fight me.
Even though he cut his hair, you still don't want him?
None. Josh Jackson cut his hair, and I believe in him now. Josh Jackson quietly had like an incredible second half of the season.
Yeah,
I'm interested to see if it's real or if it's kind of like, hey, everyone knew the Suns are a joke. Let's see, what I can do statistically. But no, I don't believe in Elfrid Payton at all. So where's he going to go? The CFL. I don't know.
The CFL. All right. Before I give you my very real answer, I have beef with you saying that about Mike better than Lonzo James, according to some media members.
Who said this? Who said this?
It was John Schumann. It was very disappointing because Schumann's a smart dude.
Yeah. So when I was at Summer League you were there for a little bit. We didn't cross past Jacob. I was talking to Jacob.
Yeah.
We didn't cross past though. I watched Mike James, and I'm sitting next to Harrison, and I'm very upset that I don't get to watch the good Suns basketball players. I'm like, what is this guy doing? Like, he scored like 27 one game. I was like, dude, stop taking every shot. Like, I want to see if Marquise Chris is good. I want to see Josh Jackson play. I want to see Dragan Bender. Like, I don't care about Mike James. Only Mike James cares about Mike James. Like 2 weeks later, the Suns sign him to a 2-way contract, and I get a DM from Harrison. He's like, this is the guy, like LMAO. And I was like, I hate the Suns. I hate the Suns. Like, I don't get it. So that's when I said earlier that, like, I'm not like a homer for every move they make. When they did that, I was like, you are subjecting me to watch this guy play basketball, and I hate you for it. Best tanking move ever, by the way. That and Devin Booker missing like 6 weeks with like a swollen toe are the 2 all-time best tanking moves ever.
All right. My actual real answer for that, though, is that he's going to go to the Pacers because apparently they're going to be the place where all the former Orlando Magic lottery picks go to thrive.
Yeah. Hey, what do you guys think of Aaron Gordon?
I like Aaron Gordon. Okay, like everybody who's ever listened to me talk about basketball knows that I love Julius Randle. I think Aaron Gordon is like pretty much the same level of a basketball player to me.
I think he makes a ton of sense in Indiana where they're rumored to be a team to offer him a offer sheet. I think Orlando probably matches anything, but I like Aaron Gordon. If he was on any other team or with any other franchise in Orlando, I think he'd be getting a lot more attention, and I think people would recognize how good he is. But unfortunately for him, he is probably stuck in Orlando for 4 more years.
Yeah, I've just always been so intrigued by him, and I know he was picked highly, and he's been rumored with the Suns here and there, like some guys have. But who else would the Lakers add outside of the marquee stars? That's something I was wondering.
A good question.
They mostly need a backup point. It's so weird because like last year, this time we were all just talking about all these like mediocre free agents that they could sign, the KCPs of the world.
Mm-hmm.
This year it's just been so much of just LeBron at your face, Paul George at your face, Kawhi. But like I haven't thought of anybody. But basically they just need a backup point guard. So whoever's on the market.
Elfrid Payton.
Yeah, let's get Elfrid Payton.
Mike James. I think Mike James is available. I'm basing that off me watching him play basketball. I'm pretty sure he's available.
We have a gaping hole to fill with Tyler Ennis being released today.
What? Kendall Marshall? Is Kendall Marshall? Dude, I'm blocked by Kendall Marshall. And I'm blocked by him, and it's deserved because I'm pretty sure I blocked him first, and then he searched my name and blocked me back. And it doesn't shock me that he did that because Kendall Marshall is so bad at everything. Like, he played in one summer league, and he started taking, like, deep threes, and he made, like, 2 of them. And I was like, oh, no, like, this is going to be a thing now. Kendall Marshall's going to be like, guys, I'm not just a great passer. Like, the heir apparent to Steve Nash, like he is the heir apparent to Steve Nash, like Lakers Steve Nash, not even Lakers Steve Nash. He's the heir apparent to Golden State Warriors level of player that Steve Nash currently is. Good Lord, what a wasted player. Former Laker, by the way. Love the guy. Hope he's listening.
He was a lot of fun on the Mike D'Antoni teams because those teams sucked, and Kendall Marshall should probably never be averaging 15 assists a game in an NBA season.
Kendall Marshall blocking you is the first time he's ever played defense in his life.
Exactly.
Hey, Joel Embiid blocked me when at Kansas because as a blogger, I tweeted, I was like, I literally tweeted, this was the tweet, Joel Embiid has a tendency to bring the ball down in the post. He's got to get that cleaned up. I'm blocked the next day, and I was just like, what? Like, I literally didn't say anything. Like, I'm incredibly high on this guy's talent and everything. And then 2 days later, he unblocked me. So, like, clearly he went through and blocked me and then was like, well, I got to unblock some of these guys, like, whatever. But, like, that was, like, the craziest 48 hours when I was like, why am I blocked by Joel Embiid? And, like, I'm looking at my tweets like, did I say something? Did I do something? But I'm no longer blocked. So, that was I would have had to make – I was also blocked by Woj for a little bit because – when Joel Embiid, this all goes back to Joel Embiid, when he declared for the draft, Woj broke it. And so these 2 guys were in my mentions like, Woj has no ethics, taking the announcement away from the kid. And so Woj went through and blocked everyone in the conversation. I had not tweeted. So literally when I met him at an NBA draft, unashamed, I pulled up my phone and was like, dude, this is the conversation I got blocked for. You blocked me. I should be unblocked. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I do that. Absolutely. He follows me on Twitter. I'm like, yo, this is pre-vertical day. I'm like, Woj is following me. So I'm like showing everyone screen caps. I have 96 of those on my computer, by the way. And then like literally the vertical starts. And I just send him a DM. Congratulations on your new venture. Unfollows me. Amazing.
Listen, I give you all of the credit for just shooting the shot, just throwing it out there. Kudos to you.
Incredible.
That I believe is all of the everything we had for today's podcast. Scott, it was a ton of fun. Even if you trash Duke multiple times.
Can I ask Scott one really quick question? It's like yes or no answer, basically. Who is going to win the national championship, and why is it Nevada?
I love Nevada, man. It might be Nevada. KU's really good next year, actually. Duke has Zion, right?
Yeah, they have the top three guys: Zion, Barrett, and Tyus Jones's brother, Trey Jones.
So this is the dumbest tangent in the history of the world, and it will be so quick. But I was at dinner with a friend, and she mentions, she's like, I can't think of, is it RJ or is it Grayson? I'm like, oh, Grayson Allen, RJ Barrett, like that's who you're mixing. And she's like, who? And I was like, nope, I just let sports in my life intersect. Like, get me out of here. That's my fault entirely. Move on. Anyway, I love Duke too. Honestly, Duke, Nevada, Kansas, like legitimately could all be 1 seeds next year. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Looks like Hani and I will have to fight. But yeah, it was a ton of fun having you on. Hopefully the Lakers and Suns games will start meaning something now. Although I guess you guys are probably a couple years away still. Once we get LeBron and PG, we will be leaving you in the dust. But no.
Like the American Bruno Caboclo, you guys are 2 years away from being 2 years away.
Yeah, Suns Twitter currently has Kawhi Leonard and Blake Griffin on the Suns, just so you guys know. So we're going to be pretty good next year, just so you know.
Awesome. That's going to renew the rivalry. We'll have LeBron and PG. It'll be a ton of fun next year. But, yeah, we will definitely have you on to preview those crazy Suns-Lakers games then. But it was a ton of fun. Scott, thanks for coming on. Hani, thank you for joining me. We will have a podcast on Saturday afternoon to talk. I guess we probably have to talk about free agency here coming up. So we will have Gary will join us on Saturday. We will have a ton of stuff to talk about, preview free agency. We will talk to you guys then. Until then, have a great one.
Shout out Xavier Henry.